vividly describing the tattooed South Sea Islanders he encountered and the Hawaiian warriors who, on February 14th, 1779, ambushed and murdered Cook. The horror of that incident could not, however, eclipse the splendor of the densely forested Oregon Territory on the North American coast. Ledyard yearned to return to the area and to make his fortune by fur trapping. He set out to realize that dream by jumping ship off the shoreline of Long Island in 1782 and reuniting with his native land. Though America had nearly achieved its independence by that time, the Continental Army remained on a war footing, and Ledyard might still have served in its ranks. But he was far too restive to re-enlist. He saw himself dancing through life between two extremes, misery and happiness, a being indigenous to no sphere or unfit for any. He published his Journal of the Cook Expedition, which became the first major travel book printed in the United States, and by 18th century terms, a bestseller. At age 33, Ledyard had probably seen more of the world and more of the North American continent than perhaps any other person alive. His mind, though, remained fixed on Oregon and his vision of establishing a fur trading post. Failing to find backers for his scheme in the United States, however, Ledyard once more exited his homeland and in 1785 set sail for France. Ledyard embodied the American frontier spirit that Frenchmen at that moment revered, and they afforded him access to some of the most exalted personages in Paris. He also befriended Benjamin Franklin, America's first representative to France, as well as the Revolutionary firebrand Tom Paine and Continental Navy hero John Paul Jones. His warmest and most influential relationship, though, was with a worldly aristocrat who appeared to have little in common with this former backwoodsman and deckhand. While at Paris, I became acquainted with John Ledyard, a man of genius, of some science, and of fearless courage and enterprise, wrote Thomas Jefferson, who'd succeeded Franklin as ambassador. Tall, lanky, and fair-skinned, Jefferson cut a contrasting figure with the brawny, weather-beaten voyager, but the two men immediately bonded. Jefferson regarded Ledyard as a man of truth, possessed of unrivaled intrepidity and roaming, restless character. Returning the commendation, Ledyard called Jefferson my brother, my father, my friend. Jefferson was riveted by Ledyard's descriptions of Oregon and tantalized by the possibility of finding a water route between that territory and America's east coast. He persuaded Ledyard to return to Oregon by way of Russia and the Bering Strait, and to search for this fabled Northwest Passage. Jefferson even appealed to the Russian Empress, Catherine the Great, to permit Ledyard to cross through her lands unscathed. Catherine dismissed the project as chimerical, but her skepticism failed to daunt Ledyard. Starting in the winter of 1787, he walked from Stockholm to St. Petersburg, and then proceeded by canoe and snow sled 3,000 frozen miles to eastern Siberia. Catherine's agents arrested him there, however, and deported him from Russia. The ordeal left Ledyard visibly aged, but otherwise undeterred. An American face doesn't wear well like an American heart, he proclaimed. He kept up a vigorous correspondence with Jefferson, positing the then groundbreaking theories that Native Americans were the descendants of prehistoric emigrants from Asia, and that all human beings, irrespective of race, shared a single ancestor. But he never abandoned his ambition of exploring uncharted territories, and in search of a new sponsor